today and spending probably a good 35 minutes on that information. So if you are an Aquatics section board member, please go ahead and post your position and your email in the chat window. If you are an operator group or chair, president or chair, please go ahead and post your information in the chat window as well. Stephanie is recording. Thank you, Stephanie. You're already recording the Zoom. So thank you for doing so. We have yet to actually send anything out as it pertained to the drowning Zoom last week because it is such a large file. We've been having a hard time like posting it in different locations. So Stephanie actually today created a YouTube channel. So if you guys are interested, we're going to actually post all the Zooms on the YouTube channel, hopefully by the end of the day Friday, if not early next week. And yeah, if you search CPRS Aquatics section, you will be able to go back and check in on any of those Zooms. So let's see. Stephanie, Andrew, did I miss anything? No? Okay. All right. Let's check in and see if Peter, and Matt are on the call on the Zoom. Let me search participants.
I am on the call.
Peter is.
DeQuincy and Matt, yeah.
Okay. Cool. And then would you guys prefer that I share and we kind of just go share my screen and we just kind of start running through the packet that you guys created? Or do you guys want to do it individually for your sections?
No, I think that works because throughout there's different things where we would be jumping back and forth. So it's probably easier for you just to do it.
Okay.
I agree. This is Pete. That works.
Hey, Pete.
Hey.
First off, I just definitely want to extend a thank you, a massive thank you again for you guys who have put in your time and energy on this. So is it working? Full screen share?
Yep.
All right. Usually it pops into full screen, but mine didn't. That's really weird, but that's okay. So basically, a couple weeks ago, this came out very quickly, and it's all because of these four gentlemen: Matt Galindo of City of Concord, Peter Byers, City of Newark, who also is on the CPRS Aquatic Section Board as our advocacy rep, Peter DeQuincy of East Bay Regional Park District, as well as Chris Chamberlain, contributed for the California State East Bay. So the biggest thing is these are guidelines and suggestions, and they're based off of all the information and research that they've done so far as it pertains to what's required by the state and federal suggestions and laws. Ultimately, you guys need to remember that you have to work with your own county health departments and LEMSAs. So, you know, that's the biggest thing. You can't do anything unless you get approval from your health department to move forward. So this is really how they have it all set up. We talked a little bit briefly about aquatic facilities and the space, so the restrooms, locker rooms, and changing areas. But you guys hadn't actually seen the product yet. And then there's a section on lifeguard operations, as well as in-service training and certification, and then it rolls into aquatic programming, as you will tell. This is probably the most inclusive document that that I've seen so far. It's about 50 something pages, 53 I believe. So if something is left out, like I said, these are just guidelines and suggestions. You need to take portions that work for that actually work for your facilities and agencies. So all right, guys, did I say everything that needed to be said? Disclaimers, are we good? I
think we're good.
All right, cool.
I think we're good.
Thanks, guys. I was like, what am I missing? All right. So, and I don't have my chat window up. Actually, you know what? I am actually going to stop sharing this version right now, and I'm going to share a different screen. Let's see if that works a little bit better. So I can still bring up my... All right, is it back up again?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to field the chat window as well to make sure that we have. I got everything for any questions. Cool. Okay. All right. Where do you guys want to start?
Just work your way down, I guess.
All right. Aquatic facilities. I think Matt, you're up.
Oh, I am?
You did the facilities component, right?
Yeah. So most of what I ended up sorry, I've been on this is my third Zoom call this morning, so I'm like, my brain's frying right at the moment.
I
I know. Most of this material is compiled directly from the current CDC guidelines, as well as Contra Costa Environmental Health, who released some at least preliminary guidelines on reopening our facilities. And the direction that I kind of went with when Peter Byers, Pete Quincy, and I were on the call with the CDC, the gentleman from CDC Environmental Health is, and I think I said this in the previous call, the goal is to get sort of the pool out of the equation. By all indications, a properly maintained pool should deactivate the virus, just as it would any other virus in your pool. So the big thing with this document really is about treating your facility as a facility. And so most of the guidelines in here you're going to find are drawn from the CDC guidelines, and like I said, the ones that are predominantly from Contra Costa Environmental Health, just because those clearly have been approved by a county health department. And if you're looking for something to get approved by your county, you can always piggyback the idea that these are coming from Contra Costa County. So the precedent is already there. Couple things they emphasize big time is making sure that you have appropriate signage at your front doors. The verbiage that I asked to include is ones that our county has specifically asked that all of our signages contain. If you're looking for some really quick ones to print out, the CDC actually has quite a few that you can download in a PDF and print that will cover all of those. They're just not in one sort of nice, neat sign. There's about 4 signs they have for you on there. Big emphasis is maintaining social distancing. They're recommending that you figure out ways in which, when you have individuals coming into your facility, there's any opportunity for a line to form, if there's any opportunity for people to be standing around, that you have marking indications of 6-foot social distancing, methods of controlling traffic, how you get people to remain apart from each other. Our county is recommending, and our city will be requiring, that all individuals entering our facility are required to wear facial coverings. And again, they're genuinely recommending that you have signage posted stating as such. They're also recommending that at your front counters that you have, even if you have bathrooms in which people can wash their hands, that you have the hand sanitizers available at your front counters. So the minute that they sort of get up front, they can disinfect their hands, as well as any of your staff up front that's helping. Scroll. I'm trying to remember all my notes. So this is a big one in our county. I actually haven't been installed in my facility right now, but they are recommending that you have barricades and barriers between any of your front counter staff who would have sort of direct interaction with patrons. I just did a photo of a couple portable ones that are being currently utilized by like supermarkets and bank tellers. But our county is recommending that you have some sort of barricade or buffer like that. They're also recommending that any of your counter staff be sort of a singular entity. So in the past, like in my facility during lapsum, you'd have a rotational basis that was happening, including people at the front counter. The recommendation is that you have a single individual who works as a dedicated shift, so that you don't have sort of the routine disinfection of your staff happening in the front counter. I included on this section in here because one of the really interesting things that I think gets overlooked is we're discussing, particularly for our state, the number of patrons you can have in your facility, is there are actual direct participation numbers associated with the amenities you have. So for instance, the top one showers. One shower will be provided for every pool users. Since your bathroom will require you to maintain your 6-foot social distancing, if you have a group shower stall and you've got 4 showers in there, which enables you to have 200 people normally, but you've got to close 2 of those showers off, you automatically sort of decrease the number of participants you can have in your facility just solely by limiting the number of showers you have. So I've included like showers, toilets, lavatories, as all of those should help you figure out how to set your capacity numbers. And then we just some examples of ways other facilities have closed off things like their sinks. I did a photo in there of the urinals because even though the urinals oftentimes have like that break in between that wall, they're not actually the 6-foot distance that would be required. If you're a gentleman, you know that there's plenty of potential for you to pay attention to your neighbor next to you. So making sure that you've got 6-foot distancing. In talking with our health officer here in Contra Costa County, one of the things he talked about with our stalls and both our toilet stalls and our shower stalls is to think of the 6-foot distancing not as, is there 6 feet in between each amenity, but could 2 individuals successfully enter or exit the amenity maintaining 6 feet? I recognize you could probably make an argument that you could stagger people, but so they enter and exit at different times. But the way that our county is looking at it is like, can they enter and exit successfully maintaining 6 feet of distance? And then if you've got like a group shower, figuring out, you're most likely going to have to close things off. You're not going to be able to run like shower to shower to shower. And this was one of the great examples they gave me, and I thought it was really good. The CDC is recommending that you have frequent cleanings and disinfections. Our county is piggybacking that. Like, if you were to ask our health officer specifically what he means by frequently, his answer is yes. So you will need to figure out for your agency what is the best frequency in which you will need to wipe down, clean, or disinfect your high traffic, high volume areas. And the things they're emphasizing are countertops, doorknobs, light switches. If you've got toilets that don't flush, if manual flush is like anything in which individuals will be utilizing in a high traffic way, you will need to schedule for frequent wipe downs, cleans, disinfection of. Guidelines, pretty much everything they could come up with and I could steal from on everything you've got. The interesting piece that I found is the one question I've been asked by a lot of people who've emailed me is on disinfecting decks. You will need to make a decision based on the material of which your deck is made from. As of right now, the CDC is saying that if you have a concrete deck, it is a poor conduit for transmission of the virus, and it does not have a good lifespan on that surface. So they are generally recommending that you don't do a routine disinfection of deck concrete. It's not likely going to be effective. If you have tile, like an indoor facility, you are going to have to factor in some level of routine disinfection of that sort of surface. And then that's kind of my facility intro. When you guys are doing your cleanings, there are personal protective equipment you must provide your staff with. Those includes goggles, face shields, or face shields, gowns, and masks. They must be appropriately trained on how to use all of your cleaning supplies. They must be appropriately trained on how to put this equipment on to do the cleaning and how to remove the equipment when they do it. Equipment is a one and done deal. You use it, you throw it away. So that's what I got for that.
Hey, Matt, well, I guess in the section as a whole, does anybody have any questions for Matt as it pertains to this? I know we talked about it briefly at our meeting 2 weeks ago. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself. All right. Okay, what section do you guys want to do next?
Go right into lifeguard operations. We can do that. So for this section specifically, the biggest thing that the CDC was really emphasizing, and I think I probably said this before, is that they really don't want the guard that's up in the tower or the chair to do anything other than surveillance. The priority is, if you're going to do enforcement or education of the distancing or the wearing of cloth masks, that's not done by someone else, and that is not the job of the lifeguard in the tower. So keep that in mind. And so when we start to walk through the lifeguard operations, some of the things that you're going to have to make sure now is you're going to be an agency, and if there's restrictions, people are going to be wearing cloth masks, including your staff. And then what that involves, and specifically, are you going to have enough cloth masks that if they lose it for the day or it gets dirty, they have a replacement? So no one is out of the loop. If it gets damaged during an EAP, you have more available. Have you considered what you're going to do when it comes to people that are coming to the site that don't have masks? Are you going to make them turn them away? Or, hey, I lost my mask, it got damaged at your site. Are you going to provide them another one? So think about those things. When we talk about personnel specifically about that, you're going to also have to train them on how to use a mask. If you're an agency that uses a lot of whistle work, you're going to have to either figure that out or change that. Some of the other things that I've considered, just wearing my mask outside with sunglasses, is it fogs up. If I don't have it on correctly, my sunglasses will fog up. And so that's going to be an issue if the combination of hat, sunscreen, glasses, and face mask, does it deter or does it complicate surveillance? So keep that in mind. So you're going to have to practice those kinds of things specifically. And then hand sanitizer. Again, if you're going to do hand sanitizer, are you going to issue it out to individuals, or do you have a no-touch system? How is that going to go? When it comes to common areas, think about this. You know, traditional is that you have one break room, 20 lunches are in that one fridge there. Is that going to work now? Because then that fridge becomes a high-touch area. Have you considered the ideas that maybe you're going to say this season everyone needs to bring their own little mini cooler, and that's how they store their food? And then again, common areas include bathrooms, changing areas, break rooms. Are you going to have more break rooms or easy ups to fulfill, because you have a lot of guards on break, depending on if you're at one of these larger facilities? So think about those types of things. And then just really taking the time and educating your staff on this is the new way of life. So as we go through and assess what the engineering controls are for your staff to be safe, you got to take that time to train them. Sunscreen's another big thing. It's common for lifeguards to put sunscreen on each other. That's not going to happen anymore. So either you're going to issue out no-touch systems for sunscreen so that they can do it themselves, or you're going to move in the direction of, like, guess what? You'll be able to put sunscreen on your face and head, but we're going to mandate now that you wear a t-shirt or a rash guard. So depending on the site. Again, hip packs. Some facilities have a hip pack at each of the stations, as opposed to issuing out a hip pack to the lifeguards themselves. I'm going to strongly encourage you now to move in the direction that you really minimize, or at least have it clean of how that's going to be handled. For us at the regional parks, we issue out a hip pack for everyone. So think about that. Those are the types of things that you really got to start thinking about. And then, as Matt was starting to say, thinking about the idea of, are you going to disinfect the area prior to you getting up there? I've also heard from my staff, both Eric and Kyle, the idea is that you have a third person that comes in behind, that's following the upcoming guard and the outgoing guard, that as the guard comes out, they clean the site, the other guard gets in, and you move from right there. So those are things that as an agency, you're going to need to individually consider, along with walking patrols. If this is a common thing because of the features, can you put them in a chair to get them elevated? And if you can't do that, can you put some fencing or coordination so people aren't interfering with the walking zone for the patrol? If you have a life jacket loaner program, again, focusing on, if I loan out 300 life jackets, I might only loan out 100 now, because I've got to have a couple days for them to disinfect and rotate through all of them. So I have some the next day and the next day. So consider those kinds of things. All right. Moving now into rescues. And then, so what I focused on, and I'll say this as a preface, is I was American Red Cross and USLA. And I really went by the guidelines that the American Red Cross provided specifically. In going on to some of these things, depending on who the instructor is, if you look at the guidelines for the participant progression log about reaching assist, one of the ideas there specifically is can be construed that people do reaching assist all the time. You got to go back and do some of the old school stuff that's in the water safety program, which was re-educating people on how to do a shepherd's crook, do a throwing assist with a ring buoy. And then the idea, and Jim Wheeler is a huge advocate of this, I want to make sure, is that in an active rescue, you're going to take the tube and you're going to make an in-water reaching assist. So stop, aggressively jab the tube at the person and tell them to grab it. And I'm going to side with Jim, and all of my experience, when you do that with a member of the public that's in need, they're going to grab the tube. So it's just changing. We're not going to make that direct contact. And so what I did here specifically is there's an operational stance and reminding people here, do a rear approach if you can. Some of the things that the biggest concerns are shallow submerged victim, shallow water and deep water. You're going to make the rescue and you're going to follow your protocols. Again, the victim is not breathing or is barely breathing. So there's a really reduced risk, but there's such a high level of crisis or critical issue. Go in there, do what you need to do. And then the idea is that the wet people that are rescuers stay wet, the dry people, patient care. And so think about those kinds of things, specifically in your operation, because this multi-rescuer response where everyone gets in the water and then everyone gets out together and works up the patient, it's really going to change because PPE doesn't work well on a wet rescuer. So think about that. And then go from there. And this is kind of going through the operational stuff here specifically. So keep going through, scrolling through, Terry, if you could. Patient care, this is going to be one of the bigger ones, is you're going to follow the guidelines, striving for, they're encouraging in the Red Cross solo use of a BVM, and that's not usually how the training curriculum goes. That's usually at an EMR or an EMT level type of training. So you're going to really have to start to re-educate your staff and retrain them on how to do that. And then the idea specifically of you doing ventilations with your resuscitation mask, probably not going to happen right now. However, as we move into in-service and certification, that is still a requirement that your team must cover. And so consider those aspects. Okay. Going into a lot of this here, this is good stuff, but we'll keep going. I want to go into in-service here. And so the in-service aspect here is that what I tried to do is that for everything that was listed on the participant progression log with the lifeguard certification for the American Red Cross is touched on specifically. So you got ventilations with the use of a BVM as a solo rescuer, ventilations with the use of BVM for 2 rescuers. And it goes through everything that you need to do when you're building your in-service specifically, okay? And so that's how it's played out. The use of the PPE, the type of equipment that you'll need to use. And there's some things in in-service you're just not gonna do anymore right now at the moment. Again, this is not certification, this is in-service. So consider that. Some of the in-service things that we probably won't do right now, but we'll probably do in certification, head holder escapes. So consider that. And then kind of deep water, in-water ventilations. So certain things, and it goes to that. And so all the stuff is covered here. So keep going through this. And even to the point where Matt drove me a little bit crazy when he, at the last minute, said there's got to be something on suctioning. So it's there. But again, that's the in-service aspect. So it really tries to address all of the things that we will have to do during an in-service, including, and it has here, go back right there, Terry, showing the scenarios. So the American Red Cross 1 through 6 scenarios, we go through those. We go through also the time response. And I would read those closely, because some of the operational procedures that you had to do in those scenarios is going to be a little bit different. Again, if you consider the idea of a wet rescuer not taking on the role of the dry rescuer who's going to provide the patient care. So go back and read those specifically when you're going to be doing an in-service and a certification class. Now, let's talk about in-service or lifeguard certification. The only big change here is that you could technically get away with doing the head hold escape and some of the backboarding and stuff if the victims or if the participants bring a victim, a family member that's going to be a victim for them. If you're going to do that, make sure the victim knows how to swim, okay? So that you're not saving a lot of people, all right? That's all I got for certification, but I think there's a lot there. So it's pretty meaty in that regard, so you're going to have to read it. Keep going. And this is Pete.
All right.
So
So
hold on a second, Pete, before we keep going, does anybody have any questions in regards to the certification and in-service training components? If you do, go ahead and unmute yourself. I'm not seeing anything in the group chat. Okay. All right. We will go ahead and move on and ask for questions again later.
all right, so we kind of broke programming down into varying phases. First phase is things you could do hopefully when a little bit more restrictions get lifted, but it's also laid out on most restrictive kind of practices, protocols, etc. So, you know, lap swimming, as you scroll down, one of the big things we looked at was spacing, and your lap lanes give you enough spacing from the standard lane configurations, with, you know, 6 feet kind of being the smallest area versus about 8 feet or so. So with your swimmers in the center, you can easily put a swimmer in each lane and maintain that physical distancing. You can keep going. Scrolling down. A lot of this just kind of goes into generic stuff, and Pete talked about lifeguarding and how you can potentially do that. We talked about entering and exiting, and you know, you're going to have to start thinking about, do we need to stage people and assign them time slots, things like that. So this goes into touch points, because you're going to have to keep those into your consideration as you're going from program to program. Keep scrolling. So this is kind of a basic idea, is you would cue your swimmers in, you would follow a path of direction for your new swimmers to come in. They would do their swim time, could be 30 minutes, 45, an hour, depends on what you want, what you're comfortable with. And in my operation, I'm going to have the guards rotate during these swim times. So right now we're going to start with a 30-minute, and the incoming guards will bring in the new swimmers. As the other ones exit, you'll have that scanning of the pool to make sure no one's on the bottom, and then your new swimmers can go into the lanes and start their swimming. And so as you're bringing people in and exiting, they're not crossing each other, and these are just kind of different options you can utilize for your swimmers in their queuing and bringing them in. And then I tried to put summaries of each program, so that if you just need a quick hit of each element, you could just go to the summary section. All right, keep going down. We looked at water exercise or water fitness from both a static user coming in and doing it on their own to a specific class. And utilizing your pool, you could probably get more water exercisers along in one lane. You want to put them on your outside lanes and space them approximately about 10 feet apart, because we know they move. They don't have a lot of control staying in one area, but if you can give them designated area, you should be good with getting, 6 or 7 participants within a lane. The other thing we recommend is not providing them equipment. Have them bring their own equipment in. They're responsible for the sanitation of that equipment, and they leave with it, and try to limit it to 3 pieces of equipment or less, so that you're not impacting your spacing on your pool deck or it getting in the way. Can keep going. So if you're having a regular class, you could probably queue it in half the pool. And we tried to stick with the general guidelines that are out there right now for camps to about 12 participants per class. So that's kind of why that's put in there, because that's the current recommendation out there for camp. So we figured we'd leave it at that for now. Okay. Then we talk a little bit about specialized water exercise, such as water walking. You can split a lane and have one on each side, and they can kind of stay towards the center and then go back around. Talk a little bit about stand-up paddle boards, because people are starting to utilize those within programs more. So it kind of goes into, some of those more specialty areas. Then we move into swim lessons, and I'm going to shut up and let Pete take over.
All right, so when we talked about swim lessons a little bit before, it's really about, there's a whole separate idea of what needs to happen at the facility, and also now what needs to happen on the deck. And so we're not going to tell people not to use the changing room or the locker room, but we really want them not to be storing their stuff there and then gathering while they're changing in and out for the old crew that's there and then the crew that's coming in. And so the idea is really about how to stage them on the deck and then develop a means of sections of where they'll be going. Now, the idea of swim lessons, really about how to maintain that social distance, has to really fall back on of how we do swim lessons. Traditionally here at the regional parks, every 25 minutes, we'll probably have 40 to 60 kids in the water with a handful of instructors, and then you rush them out and then you get another group in. And that idea is going to probably change. The swim instruction is going to really come from a parent that's in the water with the child. And then the instructor specifically is going to be either giving the guidance of that from the deck or in the water in a designated spot. So if we can get to one of the configurations, keep going. So if we look at this one here, and the larger dot is being the parent, the smaller dot being the child, the rectangle is the platform, and then the E is where the equipment is stationed specifically there. Think of those things. And then the benefit of this is people are in the water. The challenges are going to be is that the person that you're teaching really right now is going to be the parent. And so there's got to be a real strong emphasis on that. If you have, for instance, the lesson, that there's a pre-curriculum lesson that's provided to the parent prior to the lesson. And this configuration that you see right here is really ideal for a parent adult or parent child class, children's aquatics, or super taught, and then levels 1 through 3. This is kind of set up as a 6-lane pool, high school, 25 yards. The line boundaries are at the second, after 2 lanes and another lane. So there's a lot of spacing going on. And so the challenge that you're going to be is developing the curriculum that people are going to watch before they get in the water, But the benefit of it is that it's really going to increase your time on task with the student. A lot of instructors that we currently see spend a huge amount of time trying to talk to a 6-year-old, trying to organize a 6-year-old, and then get everyone through. Whereas now there's going to be a dedicated instructor for each of those children. Okay. How we do business is going to change quite a bit on that regard. This configuration here, which is a standard high school pool, 6 lanes, 25 yards, has 4 groups going on, 2 in the deep end and 2 in the shallow end, with a demonstration lane in the center that can be utilized by any of the groups from the deep end specifically. And the demonstration can either fall from the instructors, or that lane could technically be used by any of the students if they have to work on their distance and their proficiency. So keep that in mind on how you would run that. Again, this is not, we're not crunching out the numbers of like 50 kids at a time. This is like 12 kids. You know, some of the things that you might have as a variable is that you could do a family lesson as well. So instead of it just being a parent and a child, you could do 2 family members and 3 kids, put one of the kids in a life jacket. If the parent doesn't know how to swim, you could put the parent in a life jacket. So think about how you want that type of engagement. This configuration here is really for the higher levels. So your levels 4 or 5 in the Learn to Swim program, and then also an adult swim program as well. So again, more of the instruction from the deck, only 1 person in the water, 6 lanes are being used. All right. So let's keep going in regards to the swim lessons. Some of the other ideas, we're at swim camps. Just to close on swim lessons, again, you're going to try to figure out what you're going to do, and it should be, instead of you offering 10 lessons or 8 lessons over 2 weeks, consider the idea that you're going to only offer 4 lessons now. And I think 4 lessons is okay. All right. But I don't want you to give them away. I don't want you to give them like discounted or free, because that's shit ass crazy talk, and that will kill us as an industry. So don't do that. Okay. Make sure you either charge the same or a little bit more. All right. I'm done on this. Camps, that's someone else.
All right. Aquatic camps. So this is a combination of where you're doing activities outside the water plus water, and this just kind of gives it, you know, that 12 individual spacing. Depending upon your pool size, you need to just keep that in consideration. We just kind of divided it out into quadrants, you know, to give them lots of space.
Hello, Willa, how are you? Good, good.
Swim team practice, Matt.
Okay, so the swim team practice guidelines on here are, if you guys go to USA Swimming right now, they have their own series of guidelines. These guidelines that I actually wrote up were ones that were actually approved by Contra Costa County for our swim team. We are not currently allowing swim team to utilize the pool. This was a step they did without discussing with us. They just went straight to the county. On a plus side is they actually got guidelines that were approved. So the only pool configure, if you guys go through here, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. One of the big issues that we encountered was USA Swimming does allow parents to watch swim practices, and it stems from a number of sort of social issues they're dealing with within the organization. So it'll be critical that if you are having swim team practice, that you make sure that you provide social distancing for the parents. It's generally recommended that that be done in specified seating areas, and realize everything that the parents sit in will need to be cleaned. The guidelines do not include the utilization of restrooms. There is a specific guideline from USA Swimming that they recommend that all swimmers arrive to practice dressed, ready to go. There's no shared equipment. They are recommending health screenings prior to swimmers arriving at the facility. There's some subtle nuances with health screenings that you guys will need to you know, make sure with your own individual counties how they want you to handle that. And the only pool configuration that was approved was the 6-lane, 25-yard approach. And it's with swimmers happening at opposite ends of the pool. So if you guys go to USA Swimming, you're gonna notice there's a 50-meter pool where you've got 2 swimmers on either end and 2 in the middle. And you've got one that's like 27 swimmers if you start. The only one that our county out here looked at was, or accepted, was the 25-yard by 6-lane. Swimmers starting at opposite ends of the pool. And there is a recommendation of making sure that your swimmers, when they pass each other, are not breathing the same direction. So sounds a little ridiculous, but that's their recommendation. Coaches need to remain at least 6 feet away from the edge of the pool. And our county is recommending that they do that at all times, irregardless of where the swimmer is at in the lane, just to eliminate the possibility that they're getting too close to each other. The one question I did get asked from somebody was about, there's a bit of a contradiction in what was approved and what the code requires. And what I mean by, even if you're not allowing your swim team people to use restrooms, you still have to have restrooms available. There's a myriad of other health issues associated with not allowing people to utilize restrooms. And then the other question I often get, at least out in this county, because we have a lot of rec teams, is, but we're a rec team. It's been a general accepted practice in the state, and I can actually provide it in writing if people need it, that USA Swimming, that it's best to utilize best practices, and the consensus is that is the USA Swimming guidelines for running swim practices and competitions. So if your swim team is not adhering to USA Swimming guidelines for running safe practices, you're likely going to find yourself in an interesting place in court if you find a lawsuit happening. But USA Swimming is the generally accepted guidelines for the industry. So.
Okay, guys, we actually have a presenter for our water safety month from Red Cross. Connie, are you on the call? I'm just checking in.
I am.
You are? Okay.
Hey, Connie!
Pete, Matt, and Peter, are you guys able to stay on the call a little after Connie's presenting to finish out open swimming, diving board, rec swim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll take a little intermission. We'll go a little bit past 1 o'clock today. We would like to introduce Connie. American Red Cross is one of our partners when it comes to Water Safety Month. So Connie is, let me find my information, Connie Harver. She is the Director of Aquatic Centennial Initiatives. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Perfect. All right. Go ahead and take it away. I will stop sharing my screen.
Okay, and oops, I just did something that caused me to shift. And let me find what all right, can you see that?
Are you sharing your screen?
I thought I was sharing my screen. Are you not seeing it?
No, let me try this. Here, multiple. All right, try again.
Okay, so now get back into Zoom. Share screen. Are you seeing that?
No. I usually have best bet when I just share my whole screen, my whole computer screen, not just a document.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm doing here. This is how it usually works for me. And if it doesn't go here, I will just talk from it and then can direct it to you all later.
Oh,
Connie, I can pull it up if you want.
Okay, I think I may have just figured it out.
Oh, there it
Are you
is.
seeing that now?
perfect. Yes, we got you.
Okay, now let me see if I can get it in. So I think you're seeing it on side mode, right? Not full screen. Ah, there we go. Okay. Okay, so thank you all very much. I am going to go through this quite quickly. I think what you guys are talking about right now is so super important. I mean, you know, it's such a timely thing as y'all are figuring out how to open. So I'm going to go through this quicker than I normally would. But this is something that certainly there's a resource here that you'll be able to get to this. So I'm going to zoom through and see if there are any questions at the end, but I'll let you guys get back to, you know, obviously what I think I'm talking about here is super important, but I think what you guys are talking about right now is extremely important for today. So I'm here to talk about engaging your community in water safety. Want to make sure that everybody knows where the training services COVID resources are for the American Red Cross. We do have an outside the login feature, American Red Cross COVID-19 guidance. And so anybody can have access to that. You don't have to be a Red Cross, you don't have to have an account on the Learning Center to get there. Here is the direct address to that. And you will see that, you know, so there's a ton of information here. This is not very old, and this is already very old. Because every day more information is being provided on the different types of interim guidance that we have, more resources that are available. So I highly encourage you to bookmark this and look back to it often. So we do have some new and refreshed resources. A few weeks ago, we added some toolkits. One was on lifeguard training. One was on training water safety instructors, helping you get so that you would be able to do some training now. See, a lot of that content is integrated into the material that you guys have already been going over today. The toolkit that I'm going to be talking about is this toolkit for aquatics providers for engaging your community in water safety. So here's some online resources. We do have, this page has been here for a while, but I wanted to point out a couple of things related to it. So I want to focus on a little bit this download and share section, which is underneath the Water Safety Resource Center that's on the right of your screen. So in the download and share, there are more resources available than we have had in the past. Also, I'm going to show you insight, news, and advice, and that is also where some important info is that I'll be referencing. So under the download and share, these are printable flyers and infographics that you can use. I'm starting off here with the Spanish, because we want to highlight the fact that we have more Spanish materials available than we have in recent years. So here you'll see, you know, these different things that can be used either in your social media or that you can use as handouts or to put on your websites or in your catalogs or anything like that, your virtual catalogs, what you might be using. Or it could be I'll talk a little bit more about some ideas for getting your staff involved in some water safety outreach. These could be the basis of some of that. This is just showing it. Obviously, we have it available in English too. That again is under the download and share section of redcross.org/water safety, and more resources will be continue to be added to that as we go along. This is brand new, redcross.org/water safety for kids. So this is taking our Longfellow whale tails materials, which have always been assumed to be taught with an instructor or a leader delivering the content. This is now repackaging so that people can get to it directly. This was done pretty quickly after, you know, schools started being, you know, no more schools, in-person schools, and teachers were looking for things for kids to do, and parents were looking for ways to help their kids. So this is the beginning and the end of that page. At the top, it's saying, hey, parent, caregiver, we know you're in a role that you're not used to being in as it relates to kind of more in the weeds of water safety, and here's some resources for you. The top right, you'll see in the top left corner of that block is Whale Tails Parent and Caregiver Guide. And so that is a resource that somebody who's sitting alongside the child can use to have that conversation with their child about water safety as they are you know, experiencing that. So it starts off with some points to talk about the video they just saw, but then it also goes a little bit further with additional discussion points if they want to dig deeper into that. And so that is available there are 8 episodes here, and they are the 8 segments, water safety topics that do include, that have a video for each of those episodes. It's broken up by K through 2 and 3 through 6. And so you click on the one that is more appropriate for, is appropriate for your age group, and then you'll get an activity sheet and then a set of questions that once you complete the 3 quiz questions, you will get a badge. That is the sticker of Whale Tales that can then be shared on Facebook or Twitter to show success. In the discussion guide, there is, once they go through all 8 of the lessons, they do have the ability to print out a sticker, a certificate to show completion for their child as well. So we're seeing many different ways that our organizations are jumping on this and using this material. This is one to highlight. Dallas Aquatics has done a 5-day water safety challenge. They began with it last week. And so it starts with a video from Coach Carey talking about, we're going to do this challenge. If ever you participate every day, you are going to get a swag bag that comes from City of Dallas Aquatics. And so they start off then each day has a video, it's a PowerPoint that gets sent out to their families. They start off with an opening where she talks a little bit about the topic, talks about the poster, they view the video, she comes back and talks a little bit more about what they're learning, and then there's a challenge at the end. So here you see the challenges. I challenge you to find 5 things that float and post a picture of what you find. They have already, as of Monday, with 1 week of the challenge, they've already had 8,200 participants so far. So it really is resonating. I just received something in the last 5 minutes from one of the Seattle, Tukwila, where they are doing something similar, but they are doing it from their platform where it goes straight to the Red Cross materials rather than dropping it into a PowerPoint. So people are being creative about how they use it. We really want you to report your reach here. So depending on the permissions that you have in our Red Cross Learning Center, if you are taking this from the website and embedding a video into anything, we want you to report it. If you are doing like Tukwila has done, where it references back to the Red Cross materials, there, so you're clicking on the video from within the Red Cross website, then we do not need you to do this. That needs to, so we're gathering reach that way. But if you are doing it such as City of Dallas has, where they drop it into a PowerPoint, we need you to report that reach so that we can show that people are using it and it is, it is getting further out there in the community. To do this, you click on resources, and then you will have either the option of safety outreach or learn to swim / safety outreach. You'll have a drop-down option, choose Longfellow Whale Tales, and then you can put in the topic that you are using. If you're doing more than one, then you can say we did them all, or whatever, but there's some option in there for how you're actually delivering. This Teach Water Safety is where you can get access to all the Whale Tales materials. I'm highlighting this today to be able to show you that we are getting more Spanish assets here too. So there's some certificates that are available in Spanish, as well as a few of the lesson plans that include the activity sheets. The videos are also getting closed captioning in Spanish. They won't be dubbed, but there will be closed captioning in Spanish, so that if a parent is working alongside, then they can, that they know what they're seeing and can have that conversation with the children still. So this is under the News, Insights, and Advice, where our About This Science videos and blogs reside. So I'm just highlighting 2 of the more recent ones. And these are also available now in Spanish. They are dubbed in Spanish and subtitled in Spanish. So definitely encourage you to share these as you're educating your communities about water safety. A couple new online courses. Water Safety for Parents and Caregivers is a free online course, less than 20 minutes. People get a certificate once they complete it. You can register at redcross.org, take a class, but you can also, this is a course that is included in the option for APs and LTPs to add our online only courses to your websites. So I encourage you to do so. You can then assign it to people who come to your courses. This is coming soon in Spanish. We do expect it, and certainly by the middle of June, that will be available in Spanish as well. Also coming very soon is Becoming a Water Safety Ambassador course. This is one that is really more related to in-person interaction. So I'm going to kind of skip over that, and we'll provide a lot more information about that as it becomes available in the next week or so. Social media, we really want you to like and follow the Red Cross social media platforms. This will make it easy for you to also share this kind of content. We encourage you to amplify the message with reinforcing comments and videos from your staff. And so it makes it so that, you know, we've got these amazing resources, makes it easy for you to remain the go-to source of information in your community. But that it allows, you know, but it's stuff that you don't have to reinvent the wheel for. These are hashtags that we commonly use based on whatever it might be that we're talking about at the time. So I encourage you to look at those hashtags as well. So a few ideas to make it yours. So add the course descriptions and links on your website. Take advantage of the ability to put these online courses, not just aquatics, but others, on your websites. You can assign your staff to take those courses as part of in-service training, but also as a value add to your customers, such as, you know, consider putting the water safety for parents and caregivers you know, assign that to families who are participants normally in your Learn to Swim program, or to those who come to your summer camps. Complete the courses yourself, share on social media, you know, reach out using your databases to tell people about this info. So virtual safety talks and events are certainly the way many people are going now. So consider water safety series. So like Tukwila, they're doing this as a once a week thing, and they're doing live sessions, say, you know, review this stuff, and then there's going to be a live Q&A with our staff every Tuesday. So that's a great way to do that for children and adults. You can do the same thing using these new courses like the Water Safety for Parents and Caregivers, where you encourage them to take the class, then they come in for a Q&A. In the document that you were just talking about, this could be a great way to kind of set up some of the pre-curriculum stuff that they come in for, where take the class, learn a little bit more about water safety, and then let's talk about the details before you come into our program about how that's going to roll now in this time. And then, you know, virtual water safety days. I did one on Friday that included Simone Manuel, other Olympians, and an NFL player, and it was so exciting for the children who participated. They did a Kahoot game on water safety where the athletes competed against the children, and it was just super well received. And that's it. So if you have any questions, I'll hang out here for a little bit, but in the meantime, I'll say let's pass it back over to you. Can get to the heart of what you're here to talk about today.
All right, thank you, Connie, so much. Does anybody have any questions for her? I'm not seeing anything in the chat. Okay. All right, so what I'm gonna go ahead and do is start showing my screen again. And then Matt, Pete, and Peter, are you guys still all on the call?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we get started again, just want to reiterate, because we're still getting questions, we are definitely going to send this out via our CPRS Aquatics section email distribution. We are actually exploring other ways of trying to distribute it, so we're not collecting everybody's email and then putting in the extra time to compile that and then get it out that way. So we are looking at different ways of actually submitting this out there so it is open information. Usually this would be information that would be done just for section members. With that said, we want to be mindful of the time and our aquatic community as a whole. So also want to extend another thank you to Peter, Pete, and Matt and Chris Chamberlain, if he's on the call, for really doing this for us. So is there anything else really quickly that Stephanie or Andrew or anybody else on the board thinks I may have missed to mention today? Okay. Oh, the Zooms, just to reiterate for those who came on late on the call, the Zooms will also be posted on our new YouTube channel because the documents have, or the files have been so large that we haven't been able to email that information out. So, all right, cool. Okay. Do you guys see my screen?
Yep.
You good? Okay. All right, take it away.
Pete, this one's yours. Open water swim.
Yes, yes, yes. Back. Okay. Yeah. So, real big emphasis in regards to open water swimming should be focused on the user groups. We have a couple user groups that like to focus specifically on open water, and I want to stress the importance of them establishing the guidelines of how they're going to self-regulate their group. I'll be in control of the site itself and the times and frequencies that they could use it. But really, it's about how they're going to manage the people on the ground at the water's edge, and then also going in and out of the water. That's going to fall on them, and they're going to have to do that. I think the concerns I have is if you have multiple users using the same aquatic open water facility, how you're going to manage and stagger them. And so again, I think that's going to come with some conversations. But if you look at all of these things at times, it's going to be the low-hanging fruit. It's going to be super easy to regulate this and kind of test pilot people's ability to demonstrate social distancing. If you wanted to be totally hardcore conservative, person's in the parking lot, they get out of their car, they get to the water, and they start swimming. 1 minute later, the next group gets out of their car, gets to the water's edge, and goes and starts swimming. And they follow a predetermined course that was determined the day before. So something like that. So consider that. I'm passing it on. You can read it. Springboard diving. That ain't.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if Chris is on the call. Chris actually made these recommendations as a diving coach and etc. So I don't want to muddy this up. So you guys can read that as you will. One of the things I just want to backtrack just a second because lap swim and swim teams, you'll notice you don't have to back it up, but recommendations for lap swim was for 1 swimmer per lane, swim team 2. And the reasoning why there's a difference in that is your swim team's going to have a coach. Their participants are going to be the same ones each and every day that they're directing. So that's why there's a difference. Whereas your lap swimmers may be different. We don't have as much say with those individuals as a swim team does. So it kind of brings us into phase 2. This is more for programs that are a little more difficult to bring on right away. And the big one is rec swim or open swim. So I'm going to throw it back to Pete.
Can you just give me 1 moment? Sorry.
Sure. So I'll start for him anyways. We kind of tried to keep this fairly generic, and a lot of it is you're going to have to determine your capacities. Throughout the United States right now, I've been seeing anything from 25% of your normal capacity up to 50, but nothing beyond that. And it's just because it is a scary element, because we know we can't control the users, and it's going to be similar to all of you when you've gone to the grocery store. Some people are following great protocols, others are not. But you really need to look at, he's back on, you go.
Yeah. I would say exactly what Pete's going for. My apologies. One of the things that we're considering in regards to some of the engineering controls on this is for recreational swimming, do you already have your engineering controls to keep your staff safe? And then building in the engineering controls for the public. And Matt really touched on the specific thing that recreation determination of patron capacity could fall back onto your amenities. Specifically, if you have to 4 bathroom stalls and you got to close 2 of them, that's already going to reduce your size. And then physical area on the deck. And this was an important thing that the CDC said, is if you have an AFR or you have an emergency that manifests itself and you activate the EAP, could every person that's in the water get up onto the deck, either with as a single patron or the patron or family groups, and still maintain that circle of distance? And that's going to really help determine how many people can be in your facility. That's, you know, one of the I think really the strongest ways to help determine that. And again, as Pete was saying, people have to start taking responsibility for some of this stuff. It's not our job to be the social distance police. And that's coming right from my police chief. I mean, the idea that our job is to police, and this was coming from the police officer or the police chief, it's really about education, okay? It's about educating people on what's going on. And so that's the idea. And if our police officers here at regional parks are educating people, all right, they're not enforcing and they're not citing people for social distance, but they're educating. The idea that I'm going to have a 16-year-old that's going to get out on the deck and enforce social distancing, yeah, that's not going to happen. Okay, I'm not going to put them in that rough situation, but it is my job as the manager to make sure that we have the engineering controls. We've got the great messaging and signage that's up. We have the periodic announcement on the loudspeaker that says, hey, I'm going to remind you. And then we're doing all our part in regards to disinfecting. So consider those types of things for recreational swimming. The other thing that you can also come into play is parking spaces. If you don't have enough parking spaces, or the parking spaces are really too tight within your parking area, your parking lot, consider how you might close some of those off. And again, that's going to determine some of the things. The biggest concern that we have, or the CDC had also, was this idea that people are waiting in line, in a congested line, to get into your facility. And we see that a lot on hot days, specifically here at the regional parks. So the idea of how do you reduce that? So you go into a reservation system, or you go into something that's a cashless system so that people pay ahead of time to get into your site. Because really, you don't want that that gathering and that exposure, specifically when you're changing $3 for $5 and such, which is a pretty common fee that you see happening and going on. So if you can set up and develop a no pay, or not a no pay, but a cashless system, that's going to be really beneficial. And then determining your hours of recreational swim. Instead of it being from 11 to 6 here at the regional parks, it might only be from 12 to 3, which allows an hour to get ready and an hour to decontaminate and stuff like that. The other big thing that we're going to be moving towards, and I just told Tyler, who's one of the aquatic assistants here, I want you to start looking into how much it costs to get as many spray cans of turf paint to spray on the ground for the lawn areas. So I have a circle that demonstrates the distance of the size of your area and such, and then the same amount for paint for my sand and also for the deck. And I might sound batshit crazy, but I need a visual guideline specifically on that, so that the politicians and the board can see that we're doing our best effort to show and demonstrate that social distance. So keep that in mind for recreational swimming. When it comes to wave features, that's all Pete. He'll talk about that.
So all the special features, this one is a very difficult one because you have moving water that's conveying your users. This would probably be put at the very last phase of any programming. Our general recommendation would be if you have a wave pool, turn it into a static pool. Any of these elements, lazy rivers, turn off your directional flow. Even then, it's going to be a challenge. Remove all your flotation devices and it just becomes a static pool. That is the only way functionally we could see it happening without people running into each other and on top of each other. Water slides, there's too many touch points just to get up into the water slide, as well as the overall dispatch and having somebody there within close proximity. So our recommendation would be, until you can get that herd immunity, to turn these into static pieces, close down your water slides and play structures, too many touch points to be able to sanitize. Even though the water is great, it's not foolproof and you don't know who's coming in with what. I mean, we always want to think worst case scenario, someone's going to ignore all the warnings and come in and infect people. So that's why that's kind of put out that way. Other problematic programs that would probably be a phase 3 would be water polo, unless you break it up into dry land drills, static pieces. But once you get into actual play, there's really no way to do it without individuals, unless they're within the same household group working together, and that's highly unlikely unless you're talking about Olympic caliber athletes living together and staying in place. Same thing for synchro. You know, they can do a lot of dry land stuff. They can do routines. They could space routines, but they can't, you know, do their lifts and all of that without, you know, being on top of each other. Moving down, private aquatic facility rentals. You know, you could do household kind of things. You could rent it to a family that wants to do a private rental, and there may be a market for that. But, you know, that whole, I'm going to invite all my kids' friends from school and we're going to have this pool rental, just is not feasible right now. So unless you can limit it to a household element, I'd steer clear. Private cabanas, family cabanas, here again, you got to think of how much time it's going to take you to sanitize and disinfect these areas. So if you had, let's say, 10 of them, maybe you rent 5, and then, you know, you alter when the next one's open, when that family's gone or that grouping's gone, to the next 5, and you're sanitizing. But I think it's cost prohibitive probably in order to do this stuff, as well as realize any of your deck furniture, etc., is going to need to be cleaned and sanitized. So you may be better off just removing it because of the time and effort it's going to take to clean all that stuff. And I think that is it. You know, thanks for your patience of going through all this. It will be made available. And, you know, use it as a guideline. You know, some things will work for you, some things won't. And you're going to have to kind of figure out what those pieces are. We tried to make it as fairly generic, but as fairly restrictive as well, to maintain all the guidelines that are currently out there. So thanks for your time.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. Again, just want to reiterate, these guys took on this task on behalf of the aquatic section. So we know it was a pretty lofty task, and everybody very much appreciates you guys doing it. So does anybody have any questions for these guys? They're all still on the call. Let's see. What if we have bleachers? Should we just block them off?
I think the question for your bleachers will be, as with any of your deck furnishings and any of the furnishings you have in your lobbies in your house, is the frequency in which you're willing to sort of disinfect those things. If you've got a plan in place to routinely disinfect them, then you're probably in safe shape if you don't, or if that's going to cause too much time, then it's probably an amenity that's best to close off.
Yeah, I think our general thoughts are less is more.
Yeah.
You guys are getting a lot of thank yous. You guys rock. Just want to make sure that, I don't know if your chats are open, but a lot of that's coming through. So I'm not seeing any more questions. If anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask a question, you're more than welcome to do so. In the meantime, Tara messaged me from Red Cross and she said she just received an update. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go back to the normal screen. Tara, do you want to talk on the update you've just received? Are you
Yeah,
able?
I wanted to let you know that we had that, and Zachary was going to chat about that a little bit for you guys.
Whoever.
Yeah, so basically we launched our Scientific Advisory Council answers for COVID-19 and aquatics. So it kind of is in line with the huge presentation that the Pete and Matt just gave. So if you get the opportunity, it is on the Red Cross Learning Center and just kind of goes again in line with what they were talking about with some of the operational procedures and oversight and kind of setting up that precedence for operations. So that was just launched on the Learning Center. It's an 11-page document from our Scientific Advisory Council, and I will share it in the chat so that way you guys can immediately download it and start reviewing it. So we just wanted to give that update out. Literally got it within like 5 minutes of us giving this update.
Awesome. Thank you guys. And yeah, Tara just shared it in the chat. Let's see. So we're being asked what our YouTube page is. Stephanie, are you still on the call? I think you can search just CPRS Aquatics and you should be
right now it's just as aquatics section, but it'll probably be CPRS Aquatics. Just know that you're not going to find anything yet. I'm still working on uploading them. So if you guys can be patient, we'll post the link on Facebook, hopefully tomorrow. And everything should be there, including today's Zoom as well.
Cool. Thanks, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Yeah, I just, again, want to say thank you very much for everybody. Those of us that have been participating on, you know, a volunteer leadership level, just in addition to our jobs. And I mean, I personally do it because I love the aquatics community. And it's just, you know, we all come together and it's just a special place to be a part of. And we love doing it. So we wouldn't do it otherwise. But yes, please be patient. We're trying to get passwords from accounts and things like that because we do rotate over, our boards do rotate people in and out. So, and Stephanie's been really working on getting some of that stuff posted because we've run into new challenges associated with going online for everything. So yeah, thank you guys. Okay, well, and thank you to everybody. Thank you guys for continuing to join us. We will have another Zoom next week. BreaktoCollaborate is what they're called. We will have another one next week, and you can email the topics. And in the meantime, if you're a section member, look for updates from Lauren through our CPRS member group. Other than that, like our Facebook page, we're doing our best to post on there. Oh, and thank you everybody for wearing red and posting for your agencies last week for Water Safety Day last Friday. That was awesome. If you guys want to check some of those photos out between agencies and individuals that tried to do it from home. So if there's anything else left to say or any last minute questions, now's the time to unmute yourself to do so. All right, that will conclude our meeting then. I will go ahead and download the chat, and then Stephanie, don't close the meeting yet. I want to save the chat.
Terry, this is Pete again, real quick.
Hey.
Is people going to get the goods? When are they getting it?
Probably by the end of this week.
Okay.
Yeah, at least through our through our membership. We're looking at doing Google Docs and stuff for the actual document. So we have a Google account. Had to find the password for that from previous people. So, but we got it. We're rocking now. Cool. And then if there's any topics for next week, I should probably drop my email in there again. All right. Well, thank you guys. Everybody have a good one.